Mr. Grimm? Here. Mr. Gibson? Here. Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Kelly.
I believe in the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Alex, if you'd like to take it there.
All right, thanks everyone for joining tonight's live broadcast of the Streetsboro Board of Education meeting. I'm Alex Antonsik. Tonight's meeting is being held in the Decker Media Cafeteria. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to School Board President Brian Jolie.
Thank you, Alex. And we do have somebody signed up for public comments. 2 meetings in a row, Chrissy, huh? Chrissy, come on up.
My name is Chrissy Mack, and I'm a 2012 high school graduate from Streetsboro, and I just want to thank the board for letting me speak at before and after the punch this year. I also want to thank Mr. Galba for allowing me to send my punch letter to the staff and the administrator, and thank you to Mr. Persuader for having him send the letter to the staff and administrators before the plunge, and my thank with pictures after the plunge. This year it was 27 degrees wind chill and 34 in the water, and with off and on drizzling of rain. This year, my team had 24 members, so I had to split the team in half, with Ireland in both times. This past year, I passed my goal and raised over $5,000 for the 2018 fund. My team, for the Scream and Red, raised over $12,000 for this year. I am grateful to all the staff who donated to me this year. Their total was $666, was more than 10 schools, and as a result, Streetsboro has won the punch challenge for the 2018. Sorry, Ken. You can only keep it for 1 year unless you can beat Kent again next year.
Twice. Oh my.
Mr. Gibson and I were over here commenting earlier that it was a little cold in here, but I think after realizing that Chrissy went in the water in February at 34 degrees, I think we'll just not say anything.
She did it twice. She went in twice this year. Congratulations, Chrissy. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
And just tweeting your picture up. They're now your famous. So Chrissy, we will display that over at the board office. Is that okay? Or would you rather have it at the high school? Where do you think?
It's up to you guys.
All right. We may put it at the high school so it receives a little more exposure. I'll talk to Mr. Hogue about that.
Okay.
Because we have a nice, we have a couple of nice trophy cases that are right out there in the main area. And I think it might look nice in there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to approval of minutes, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes from February as submitted.
I'll move.
Second.
First and second. Mr. Grimm was second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Beth?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to reports, superintendent's report.
Thank you. So we're going to change the order up a little bit. So I'm going to put Tim, our architect from the middle school, and Tim, the other Tim, our presenter tonight from Garland. As they're coming up to the mic, I want to frame the conversation. So it was about a year and a half ago, Mr. Violi, and I think Mrs. Baba can verify this, that it was almost 2 years ago actually, that when we were looking at the entire scope of the building project, we knew that we were going to be left with the current middle school, which would be transitioned to yet to be determined, and then Denver Intermediate School. Denver Intermediate School obviously has a steel roof. All the new buildings have at least a 20-year guaranteed PVC roof, but it's guaranteed a little bit longer than that. They're thinking up to 30 at least if we take care of it while we're on that. That's a PVC roof. And then what came to question in my mind was, what are we going to do with the current middle school's roof? So I asked Tim, wherever Tim went, there he is. I asked Tim and the architectural team to do an assessment, and we had Ray Roofing give an assessment along with Tim had a previous relationship with Garland, and I'll turn that over to Tim in just a second. So we had a couple different companies come out and take a look at that roof. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I think Tim's going to get into a little more, but the essential fact is this. This middle school that we're in right now, we have, aside from the new addition in 2001, which is a steel roof, we have several different areas of that roof that are actually already failing. And we have a large portion of the roof that's at end of life and basically could fail at any time if it hasn't already done so. Because it can fail and be failing for a year or two, and we don't even know it until the insulation is saturated and starts coming down in. So we need to protect our investment. So back, like I said, about 3 years ago, we had a couple quotes come in, and at that time we were hoping that there would be some way to include this under the umbrella of the building project so that we wouldn't have to go out and competitively bid. Well, that's not the case. All right. So we brought Garland in, and that's why Tim's here from Garland. He's going to explain what solution that they have to offer, which is what I'm making a recommendation. And I do want to say that Ray Roofing, that did all the other roofs on our new buildings, they also did a competitive quote. It came in at virtually the same price that Garland did, only on a 20-year roof. This is a 30-year that we're going to talk about. But the piece that you need to understand is that we can't just go with Ray Roofing because they did our other buildings. If we go out, because it's outside of the building project, so we would have to competitively bid that scope of work, and by Ohio law, we'd have to take the lowest bidder. Therefore, not being able to control who would install that roof. So Garland presents a little different scenario, and they're part of the U.S. communities, all right, which is, and you guys may have all heard of state term pricing, which are, this is actually a U.S. term pricing, and we are a member of that. And what's unique about the Garland company is that they're in essence like a CM at risk. They can actually bid out the scope of work to roofers that they already have a relationship with, that they've vetted, they've done the roofs, and they like their work. So much like Hammond did on our building project, they picked the people that they wanted to bid because they knew the 3 or 4 people that were bidding were all good. So then we got to pick the lowest bidder there. Garland was able to do the same thing. They basically have a group of people that they have a relationship with, they bid it out, and they arrived at a price. So I'm going to stop there. Tim is going to take us through a walk of what that roof looks like and some of the roofing systems that he's here to propose to us. Then I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you. Good, okay. Thank you for the introduction. As Mike said, my name is Tim Hollow with the Garland Company, and today we'll be discussing the middle school roof. Tim will be helping out with the slides, but we're going to cover the roofing system, kind of how this all came about, and hopefully, answer all your questions as we're going through the presentation. So with all that being said, we took a look at the middle school roof, so you probably recognize this, but the sections are, all the roofing areas are broken out into different sections. A, B, C, D, and F. The other areas are not being touched, the metal roof was being left alone. So we evaluated each one with a visual inspection and with core evaluation of the roof. And sections A, B, and C are prime candidates for a roof recovery, where they do not need to be torn off at this point. At least visually, they don't need to be torn off. They are in overall fair condition. There are some definitely things going on that aren't good. And the main thing is we don't want to let the roof pass that point of no return. If it passes the point of no return, then they have to be torn off completely and the cost goes up significantly. Especially with Section A. Section A has a tapered roof insulation system, meaning the metal deck is flat. And with the tapered insulation system, it's more expensive. We want to use that foundation, we want to use that tapered system rather than tearing it off and save the district money. Section D, E, and F have well surpassed the life expectancy, and doing a roof layover is not an option. At any point, those roof sections can fail and it won't be good. It'll be constant leaks, it'll be hard to repair, especially if it goes on during the school year. It's never good to be doing a roof replacement when it gets to the point where that's the only option and it's coming in on the students' heads. So we want to take action before that occurs. So we'll take a look at all those different sections and then what we proposed for the overall roof replacement project.
Skip a few things here.
So there's a lot of different roof systems out there. And we're Garland's the manufacturer. We manufacture pretty much every different one out there. And with the modified system, what we're proposing here has been the one that provides the longest life expectancy. And a couple different reasons for it. To start with the roof assembly itself. It's a metal deck, and then there's insulation that's going to be completely replaced, and that'll be going down to the metal deck. They'll fasten, mechanically fasten with screws, and we'll give a R value, so there's going to be an increased R value in the overall building with the insulation. On top of the insulation, we protect that insulation because it's not quite dense enough. We protect it with a cover board. The cover board's a high density cover board. It's set in hot asphalt, and in that way it's going to isolate the fasteners. On top of the cover board, you put down a base sheet. So you probably can't see this out in the audience, but on top of the cover board goes a base sheet. So here's your cover board, here's your base sheet, and this is 80 mil thick. A traditional single ply, some of the other roofing materials out there are anywhere from 45 to 80. So this base sheet in and of itself is a waterproofer and acts as the base assembly for the roof. And this is set in hot asphalt. Well, we want to take it a step further, give you the 30-year system, and we then set the cap sheet and another layer of hot asphalt. And once all this is assembled, you have an 80 mil sheet, 80 mil sheet, and another 80 mils of hot asphalt. So you get 240 mils of waterproofing versus some of the other systems out there that don't quite last as long at 45 to 80. So that's how you're getting your 30-year roof system. And then we protect the black membrane. The sun will eat it up, the sun will deteriorate it, so we want to make sure it does not dry out. So we'll come back and we'll put an entire coating of aluminizer, terminology they use for the roofing, but aluminizer, and that's what it'll look like. This is the Pepper Pike service garage, and as you can see, this is the end product. So overall, the roof gets entirely coated. You have to wear your sunglasses up there, but that protects the UV deterioration, and that allows for a 30-year warranty. So that's what the overall roof would look like when it's done. The method that we use, which Mike was talking about, is called U.S. Communities. And this is a very unique cooperative purchasing that Garland is very fortunate to be part of. Where there's a lot of ones out there that you kind of default by maybe joining a group or paying for, where U.S. Communities is different, is a roof was actually bid on a national level. Rather than just saying, all right, these are the prices, they actually bid a roof on a national level. Garland's contracting arm bid it with anybody else in the country that wanted to, and we were found to be low. This roof was down in Cobb County, Atlanta, Georgia, and every state in the country says, okay, well, rather than reinventing the wheel and taking the time and the process of having everybody rebid it, let's use this contract as the basis. But we wanted to take a step further. We don't want to just use the price that was established down in Atlanta, Georgia. We wanted to bring it a step further and actually have 3 approved Garland contractors bid it locally to help bring down the price. So we had 3 local contractors that are familiar with the modified built-up system, that know how to use a hot kettle, that know how to do the system properly, and that allowed us to beat the pricing that was established down in Atlanta. That price savings was passed on to you guys. That way we have the transparency, still give you guys extra bids, and, you know, try to get the most competitive price possible. And there's the statute of Ohio that explained how it's allowed. And then as you can see, as it was described, state term is, this has replaced state term. Just because it has a better story, it's not just piggybacked off of a GSA pricing. This one was actually bid. And you can see there's numerous different references up here that are using it, and it continues to grow. People that are using this method like it because it helps expedite the process. It eliminates the unwanted contractors. You know, one day that they're a siding contractor, and the next day, hey, I'll be a roofer and I can do this job. So that's one of the nice things that gives you guys control over. You know, we're getting good contractors. And then lastly, it's one company, being Garland, is there throughout the entire project and once it's over. You can't come back and say, oh, where's that contractor? They're out of business. Well, no, Garland is a company holding the warranty, covering labor and material. So at year 20, we do come back and inspect the roof on an annual basis. Garland Ops covers a small area, I cover 4.5 counties. So stop by once a year, check the roof, and then report back to the school, let them know, hey, clean your drains, these are the things that you might need to do. But we are involved throughout the life of the roof because we want it to last. Garland is an employee-owned company, so if anything were to go wrong from that roof, it comes out of our pension. And we want the roof to go to that 30 years. That's where we're also unique is, hey, Tim, why are you so involved? Well, we want the roof to work. So we have skin in the game as well. Roof assessment, and the upper roof sections that have not surpassed their life expectancy are starting to get some deficiencies. They're starting to age. And you saw kind of an outline of what they were, but we did evaluate it. We did the core sampling, and the core sampling was dry. We cut a little 2-inch hole. We didn't cut everywhere, but core sampling was dry. We did confirm that it was a tapered insulation as described. So we want to make sure we save that foundation, save the insulation. But the key factor then too is to save it before those deficiencies become too much and it can't be saved. So section A, B, and C are candidates for restoration. And then looking at the other sections, but just kind of an outline of the different conditions. There are numerous repairs up there. Any obsolete material will be removed for the scope of work. And you know, overall, we're confident that those could be a roof layover. The bottom sections are a little bit different story. Leaks are reported. Tim, scroll on a little bit more. So those are the bottom roof sections that surpass their life expectancy. A lot of leaks are reported. There's not in good condition. Some of the metal edges coming off, and the plan is to kill those off and start from brand new, come back with a tapered system, and that way positive drainage, and replace the roof that way. So those are the two different roof configurations, or all the different roof areas that are going to be part of the project, or would be part of the project.
Tim, also, the one area that you're saying is very deteriorated. The two areas, I think it's
D and E maybe?
D, E, and F.
Correct.
They also already have 2 layers on there, and for building code, you can't have a 3rd layer. So not only are they failing with a 2-layer system, we can't just do a layover like we're doing on the others. So that's why it has to be a complete tear out. And that's what we don't want to have happen on the other portions of the roof. Sorry.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. That's definitely important. We want to make sure we're doing everything in building code. And so here's a price breakdown of, by bringing this, and this was bid last year, so all the wheels are in motion. We have all the numbers in place. But section A, B, and C, I'm sorry, section, A, B, and C were bid, kind of wanted to see what the different options were. So doing the 3 numbers, the low bidder is at 105, but then if we look at a 30-year option, it comes back to 148,000. So not that much of a difference for a 30-year versus a 10-year. And then we looked at the lower sections where we had to tear all those off, and bid those as well. So the combined price of it coming back with a 30-year option is $312,000, $312,262. And if we add in some contingency items, such as repairing a drain, or if we do, we're going to get the roof scanned. If we have to scan the roof and some wet insulation comes back, we do some contingency in there at $350,000.
And I asked them to build a contingency plan. The with more money than we would anticipate needing, so that if I ask this board to approve this project and it comes in at more than 312, you're going to say, why was it overbid? So we built in a contingency. And his company, I believe, and I want to speak for you, that they felt by going 350, that's looking at worst case scenario of having to replace decking and things.
Correct. And so if and in a way, the money amount would be allocated, 3/12 of the contract and the contingency amounts, and everything was line item price. So there can't be hey, surprise, you're going to be charged double the amount of what it should be. So drain inserts, wet insulation, all those things were bid at a predetermined price. So there will be no surprise as far as a price. Oh, didn't have that. So we did look into that as well. I don't know if there was anything else.
Okay, so board, then, just before Tim leaves, I hope you're there to answer some questions. I know you guys probably have some, but the goal of this presentation, and what I hope to be an ultimately a recommendation, is that we're growing, and you guys know that. You've heard me talk about it. Our enrollment's growing, and we're going to be at capacity in our buildings, I think, within a couple of years. These brand new buildings. So this current middle school is the area that's going to become our next home for students. So we need to protect our investment. This board, at least as far as any conversation I've ever had, we've never even entertained tearing the middle school down. We're going to use it for athletic programming, and that's still the plan. Baseball, softball, and wrestling all will have a home there. We use it as staff development center, but we need to protect that investment. The boilers are fairly new. They were done in 2001. So the one area that we really need to take a look at, obviously, is the roof. So are there any questions? I know that Tim had some different items there to show what the roof will look like. I know Brian has had some experience with this type of roof with Levin, but if you guys have some questions, now would be the time to ask the expert.
I'll just piggyback on it. I mean, three of us that are on this board right now have experienced a total failure of a roof, and the repair on that roof was well above what is coming in on this bid. When I sat through the presentation on this originally, I was fairly surprised at the price and how low it was compared to what we had experienced before. The product that was presented, in my opinion, is much superior to doing a patch or a fix for that 30-year roof. I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best products that I've seen out there. And I've had experience with replacing roofs on our buildings at my company. So I'm impressed with the numbers and what I heard.
And I forgot to mention that, and Matt can verify this, that we do have PI dollars for this. So right now is the time to use our PI dollars for these types of projects, because we're not going to have to spend significant amounts of money from the PI fund on our new buildings because they're new and they have their own PI budget.
The other thing that I would just, and I've brought up before in meetings about making a roofing fund or a roof fund or a repair fund, taking PI money and kind of soaking it away in that fund every year so that you come up with a project like this. But to be quite honest with you, this is kind of the last piece of the puzzle to make sure that all of our buildings are intact and in good shape for the next 30 years.
This along with the other buildings will far surpass probably most of us in our tenure here.
We definitely have to take care of it. And it's community investment. If we don't take care of it and go back to the community and say, oh, we need more money for a new building because this one went downhill because we let it leak, it's not being good stewards, and we've done a good job for many decades with the money that we've given. So I think it's a worthwhile project.
You're telling me that if we don't get the roof repaired, it could collapse, right?
The bottom roof, I wouldn't say collapse, but bigger problems will occur.
I mean, there's a safety issue there too. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory to me. I don't know why we're got to get done. So.
When you talk about a total failure of a roof, you're going to be dealing with major leaks in the building. I mean, when we were at Wade before we put the new roof on there, I mean, there was buckets and plastic sheeting, and they were sheeting the water across the room into a bucket. I mean, that's what you can experience with a failure on the roof. I don't think there's an option, and the option of going from a 20-year to a 30-year warranty, in my opinion, the dollars spent are well worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
Tim, can you bring back the very first slide that showed the areas of the, so when you look at the areas of the roof, if you look at A through C, we can do a layover with that. But if we allow A through C to get like D, E, and F, where we have to do a complete tear off, then that's when you're going with what Brian talked about and how much it was to replace the roof at weight when it completely failed. So that's why we're ahead of it. We were trying to stay ahead of it now. So it's not a complete tear off and restore.
Areas A, B, and C, how long would you say they have before they need to be repaired? I mean, if we waited a year, 2 years, is that horrible? Or?
Roofing's tough, just because of winter, like the winter we have now. If the roof is bad in one winter, it goes. So does it have a little bit of time? Yes, but it's unknown, and they literally could go in a year. A good example is we work a lot with Kent City schools, and we proposed a roof layover, and we waited a winter, and it came back and it was done. It had to be completely torn off. So
I mean, you could go from $140,000 repair now to $300,000 very easily. The weight roof was over $500,000, and we didn't replace the whole. I mean, the whole building wasn't done. So when you go into a failure like that on those huge, on that much square footage, it can.
My concern is just, we don't have a definite plan for it. I mean, the sections that are failing, by all means, we should replace them and protect the building, but without an honest business plan for the building to replace the whole roof, if it doesn't need it, is my, I mean, replace the parts that need it, the building's there, it's in good shape. 5 years down the road, maybe we need it, and we take care of the rest of it. But just to replace it just because we might want to use the building.
Those sections do need some work. So, I mean,
And I think
that's the report.
Yeah, what they're proposing for, correct me if I'm wrong, A, B, and C is the layover, which will stop it from getting any worse.
And guarantee it for 30 years.
Right.
those bridges, things of that sort that were described in there, those could pop their head up and they just turn into a mess.
And I know just from, the way that things are going in this community that we're still growing, and to have students back in there again as classrooms is probably inevitable. There's another building in town that was an old school, and it leaks like crazy, and people can't wait to get out of it. And we all know where it is. If we don't do anything, that building's gonna end up the same way.
Anyone else? Any other questions, comments?
Do it.
All right, so what I'm gonna ask the board is I don't have the recommendation portion of it set, but what I would like permission from you guys to do is to go ahead and move forward with inking the final details with Garland so that we can get working on this. My goal would be the reason we're presenting this today is because I would like to have this done during the summertime when there are no students on campus. Because we're gonna use that building in the fall for athletics and other community events. So with your permission, I'd like to be able to move forward with working out what you saw the bottom line proposal, $350,000, and then we can ratify it at the next board meeting. That way we can get on their schedule.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Thank you,
Thanks,
Tim.
Tim.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for that presentation that he just did, if you need to dig into that some more, I placed it in the board docs under administrative content. So if you need, please call me if you have questions. I can connect you with either one of the Tims if you have specific questions.
Yes, Tim's.
Okay, moving on. I would like to move on to our promising practice. And Mr. Newman from the high school is here to introduce our promising practice while he's coming up. Mr. Gibson, what we try to do at every board meeting, I try to have each one of the buildings each month present something that is great that's going on in the buildings that have to do with kids and what we're doing. So this month, it's the high school. So I'll hand that over to you, Aaron.
All right, thank you, Mr. Daba, board members. So tonight, we're going to feature the very impactful work of our band directors, Band Director Mason Smith, Assistant Band Director Vincent Ciula. Before I bring them up to do that, I want to give you a little bit of dig into their background a little bit and also talk about some other really good things we have going on at the high school. And so as you know, winter sports is just concluded. We had successful seasons on the hardwood with girls and boys basketball, on the lanes with our bowling team, and on the mat with our wrestling team. In fact, I have an update that's relatively current, although, of course, Mr. Dahlbob, you can beat me to the punch on Twitter. Dominic Carone had his first match down at the state tournament. He won 7-1. So that's going to be the first preliminary bout, they call that. He now moves into the quarterfinals. He'll have a match tomorrow at about 11 a.m. If he wins that match, he's in the semifinals. And then the lowest you can place once you make it to the semifinals is 6th place. So I know I speak on behalf of the board and everyone in the room when I say that we wish Don the best and are very hopeful and optimistic that he can bring back the state title. Our quiz bowl team just competed in a local tournament. They qualified for the 2nd year in a row for both states and nationals. Our STEM program continues to grow. We're now in year 2 of running all 4 classes, including the capstone. This is a unique, innovative program. We have the dynamic, and it's led, I call him the fearless leader, Tom Fessmeyer, who is increasing interest and opportunities for students daily. That's a word that I noticed as I put together these notes about good things happening at the high school. Opportunities, unique opportunities. That's a common theme throughout my presentation. I think it's something that's common for our building, whether you're talking in the classroom or outside the classroom with extracurriculars. We had a successful launch of our African American Literature course first semester. This is an offering we're looking to continue and possibly expand. Both our choral and drama programs continue to improve, impress, and again, provide unique opportunities for our students. Mr. Boardwine and his team are hard at work preparing for the spring production of Peter Pan. The casting has taken place. They are now in the pre-production phase and hard at work. I've been popping in there. Obviously, they're getting ready literally as we speak. Ms. Sturdivant, our choir director, helped us cap our celebration of Black History Month with 2 original stage productions written by her, Black, Her Story, Past, Present, and Future, and Mama's Table. And just as you see with our drama productions, you go to these productions and you're blown away by the stage talent that we have in this district. I mean, I'm talking thespian level stage talent, just amazing acting. And the Black History production included middle school and high school students. And again, it was just high quality, powerful stuff there. Very proud of Ms. Sturtevant and all the students that participated in that. Here we are, almost mid-March. Crazy how time flies. But testing season is around the corner. We continue to refine our intervention and tutoring programs to prepare students for air testing and SAT, PSAT. I want to thank the board for facilitating the hire of Nick Medwitz. He is a math tutor. He's doing an excellent job helping students navigate everything from algebra to AP Calc while also working regularly. And when I say working regularly, we have a schedule that is established for students where they meet with him. Students that may need additional support to ensure air test readiness. And obviously in April we have air testing, so we want to make sure our students are ready. And that as far as air testing goes, we'll be sitting for Algebra 1 and Geometry. I could go on to also discuss the very cool things taking place in Mr. Fessmeyer's TV production class, but I know the board recently heard about that. So I want to move on to what I'll be highlighting as our promising practice, and that is our band directors. I'll be bringing them up here momentarily to talk some specifics about how things are going, but I first want to brag a little by giving some background on Director Mason, as we affectionately call him, is a Medina High School graduate. Benny's mom was band director at Cobley High School. Dad was the longtime band director at Medina High School. So it would be an understatement to say Benny grew up in a house that appreciated the value and importance of a quality musical education. Benny attended Akron University, where he majored and graduated with a music education degree. Throughout college, Benny taught private lessons in Medina, was a brass specialist in Medina High School and Akron St. Mary's. Benny is a member of the International Trombone Association and, get this, former president of the Akron Trombone Association, which I thought was very cool. First time I've run into one of those. We were lucky enough to grab Benny right out of Akron. He's incredibly knowledgeable, talented and flat out great with kids. And I'm not saying that because I'm not speculating. I've seen it firsthand. Very lucky to have him on board. Mason Smith. Mason's a graduate of Mayfield High School. And again, you know, both of them come from high quality, respected programs. So Mason graduated from Mayfield High School, is obviously a member of the band. He continues his education at Kent State, where he majored in music education, receiving his BM in 2012. During his last year at Kent State, Mason student taught at Solon High School, and he came very highly recommended to us from there. During his final year of college, Mason made a life-changing, and this is not just life-changing, this is sacrifice. And that decision was to enlist in the Marines. Exactly 1 week after graduating from Kent State, 1 week on the dot, Mason shipped off to boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. There he would go through boot camp, combat training, and extensive auditioning for acceptance and placement at the prestigious Navy School of Music, and I believe it was previously called the Armed Forces School of Music.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Upon entrance into the Navy School of Music, Mason endured 6 months of intensive training in the form of rehearsals, lessons, and regular auditions. Mason was eventually stationed in San Diego. I could think of worse places to be stationed than San Diego, where he played in hundreds of military ceremonies, approximately 200 funerals. These were non-active duty veterans. The Rose Bowl multiple times, the Ronald Reagan Library, along with countless other unique experiences. But as I talked to Mason about his time in the Marine Corps Band, I asked him what his greatest honor was while participating in that very unique group. And he answered with ease and decisiveness. And that was Mason played in front of 4-star Marine General and current Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis. And for Marines, it was obviously talking to him. There is no other person that you would feel more honored to play in front of than Jim Mattis, who is our current Secretary of Defense. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring up Mason and Vinny. We have a quick PowerPoint that they're going to share with you to cover some of the great things we have going on in our band.
Thank you.
Yep.
Introductions like that always make you feel a little bit better about yourself. It's a good way to start something off. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. Last weekend, we had the honor of getting to play at the Ohio Music Education Association's large group adjudicated event for our high school group. And afterwards, Mr. Hogue asked us if we would like an opportunity to come in front of the board and members of the public and get to talk about the things that we've been doing in the past year and a little bit of our ideas of the future, where we see the bands going from 5 all the way through 12th grade. I'd like to start off with a quote, not that quote, but the next slide quote. This is from the Ohio Music Education Association's website. For music to be indispensable to learning in life, it must be more than just a shallow passing experience for the student. Increased proficiency increases enjoyment, and competence begets respect for competence. Quality is not a limiting factor for the individual, but puts within his or her grasp an otherwise inaccessible treasure store of the world's cultural riches. Archibald Davison has written, "Zeal for fine music grows out of an experience of the satisfactions that spring only from association with the highest manifestations of musical art." That's kind of a quote that sticks pretty true to Mr. Sula and myself, and I know a lot of music teachers out there. My favorite line being, of course, the one that I've highlighted: increased proficiency increases enjoyment. Competence begets respect for competence. So the idea of playing more and more better and more difficult music makes you enjoy it more. That education and learning and growing as a musician brings more enjoyment out of getting better at that activity. And I think it's something that we can teach high school students, any student, and they can take that in any job or career, any endeavor in their life, and continue on that with that feeling. To the next slide. So I'm going to talk about, I teach Henry and Deffer 5th and 6th grade bands. After that, Mr. Sewell will take over and he's going to talk about what's going on in the middle school before we wrap up together with the high school. Now, Henry Deffer in 5th grade, currently we have 76 total students. We have 12 flutes, 21 clarinets, a whole 39 trumpets. That's one of our trumpet classes right there. 4 trombones. Now we meet right now currently is a 4-day schedule. It's a 4-day rotation, days 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that rotates. That's split between 8 classes, so I meet with 5th grade band twice a day. And we meet, as you can see in there in the tech room, we've had a little space issues this year just because of we've increasing numbers, filling up this school and filling up this school. So we're making use with the rooms that we have and using the tech room currently. Now, in the next slide, we have Henry Deffer's 6th grade band. Our total enrollment there is down to 38, 4 flutes, 10 clarinets, 1 saxophonist, 15 trumpets, 4 trombones, and 4 percussion. They also are meeting in that 4-day rotation. They have 7 classes split amongst that. And again, meeting in that same tech room. So in 5th and 6th grade band, these are our beginning years of band. Our goal here is to familiarize ourselves with the instruments and encourage them to continue on. In 5th and 6th grade band, we are setting them up for someday being in the high school band. So we are building up that curriculum and building up their skill level so that when they get to the high school band, we have a well-balanced and well-honed machine at that point. So we're thinking about that end goal of them in 12th grade from day 1 when they're entering the doors, and even from that year before when they're picking instruments. We're thinking about those things to come that we want to see for them in 12th grade. Next slide. Now we're using this new program this year called Smart Music, which has been an excellent addition. Smart Music is a web-based music education platform. On the Smart Music website, you have a vast music library, thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of music on there. As a teacher, I have full access to any of those. Each student I have set up with their own personal profile on the website as well. I can assign them anything that we are working on in class, and they have a new assignment every week, which they then have access to that, and they can take it home, go on their computer at home, open up that assignment, and they can practice using this tool. It has a lot of nice tools that can help somebody practice. You have background music playing with them, kind of makes it a little bit more fun, as well as metronomes keeping the click on for them. They can speed it up, slow it down for themselves. Choose a section of music, 1 measure, 2 measures at a time, and loop that over and over again for themselves. And then when they're ready and finished and they feel good about their product, they can record themselves. When they record themselves, the computer will give them a grade. It listens to them. That's why it's called smart music. It's not just passive. It's actively listening to them. It will tell them what notes it decides thinking they've played wrong, maybe out of tune, things like that, rhythms off, highlights those, sends their recording and the grading that the computer gave them to me onto my teacher profile, and then I can go through that and grade it myself also. Computer most of the time is going to give them a little bit worse grade than I might because we have 20 people in a classroom playing at the same time. It picks up a few extra notes here and there. But it's been a great tool for them to get to have. Definitely a nice way to encourage them to be practicing at home in a little bit different of a setting than locking yourself in your bedroom with trying to stuff pillows around the door not to bother your parents with your sound, just sitting there looking at a white paper book all day long. This is a nice way to bring some technology into the classroom and at home and working with those students, and we've definitely been enjoying it a lot. And next slide. So future of Henry Deffer bands, things that I would hope to see and we'll be working towards. We've been talking about ideas of the 2 of us getting to work together in the 5th grade and 6th grade bands. This would allow pull-out lesson schedules so that one of us could be teaching the full group while another could grab 1 or 2 students working with them individually, giving private lessons. Very important at such an early age when you're learning that instrument that you're getting as much possible time in front of the teacher, especially one-on-one. It's a hard thing to pick up an instrument and try to learn it. If any of us in here, any of you in here who don't play an instrument can imagine, I want to pick up trumpet and learn how to play it tomorrow. You can also probably imagine how much work it's going to take for you to get sounding the way that you want to sound. So more instruction time, more private time with the teacher would be very beneficial for them. Would also help improve our retention rates. Last year we had issues trying to hold students staying from 5th into 6th grade. It's a tough transition because in 5th grade you have all the hopes in the world before you picked up the instrument of what you're going to sound like. And then you pick it up and you realize what you actually are going to sound like that first day you play it. And it might be a little bit discouraging for them sometimes, and you probably will lose the most in 5th to 6th grade, but we want to really focus our efforts on improving that and keeping more students going into 6th grade. more lesson time, more time in front of teachers would really help that, making them feel better about playing. As well as having a private lesson program, maybe bringing high school students regularly down to DEFRA, or bringing DEFRA students up to the high school when available and using the practice rooms at the high school to get some one-on-one time with high school students. Not only could that help them improve their musicianship, also will give them plenty of time to get to socialize with the high school group and make it seem maybe like a more attainable, achievable thing to someday end up in that high school marching band, high school concert band groups, and is also helping the high school students get a nice leadership experience and education experience in teaching others. Also want to make sure to continue that this is a class offered as part of the school day. I've seen schools that have tried to do it before school, after school, during recess. It's a scary thing, it tends not to work. It doesn't make it as easily accessible for all students to be able to be a part of those ensembles. As well as, and we know it will be better next year, the rehearsal space. Once we move out and change buildings around here, we'll have something a little bigger, a little more conducive to a band rehearsal in the tech room. And increase rehearsal frequency. It's nice having the small class sizes that I have this year, but we do only get to see our students maybe one day every once in a while, 2 days a week in those grades, and that can be kind of hard to retain some of the skills with them and encourage them to continue on. So certainly hope to be working and trying to push for some more frequent rehearsal times, as well as regular full band rehearsals. We don't have an opportunity right now to be meeting as an entire 5th grade or entire 6th grade band, other than right before the concert and then pulling students out of the other classes that they were supposed to be in order to be a part of a full group rehearsal. So those are some of the things hoping to continue to talk about in the future and keep driving towards that I know will help our 5th and 6th graders in our beginning band years. Now we're going to go into talking about our middle school band, 7th, 8th grade, and jazz band with Mr. Skula.
First, I just want to say thanks for giving us an opportunity to speak this evening. If we could just go to the next slide, possibly. I first wanted to start off with kind of a snapshot of where we were last year in terms of numbers and our performance schedule. Last year, it's to my knowledge that there was only 3 performances done with the middle school bands, and that was a fall concert, a winter concert, and I actually came on as the interim sub for the spring concert. There is a recent history with middle school band students at Streetsboro attending OMIA Soul Ensemble event, but last year we didn't have any participants. And this year also, or excuse me, last year as well, and I don't believe there's actually a recent history with the Streetsboro Middle School bands of attending OMIA large group event, which is actually what our high schoolers just had the opportunity to do this past weekend. I also wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot in terms of numbers, and I included the 6th grade band from last year, because that's our 7th grade students this year. So last year, the 6th grade band was 64 students. Last year, the jazz band was 11 students. 7th grade band of last year, 45, and 8th grade band, 40. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. And this year, we got some new faces, and this is actually some pictures of something we implemented this year. And some more information about this is on the next slide. This is something that we're calling the SMS Rocket Band Student of the Month Award, and you can see that we're emphasizing the standard in the word standard. Basically, what we did for this award is these are repurposed music stands in the middle school band room. If you walk in to the far right, in the top corner, there's a bunch of old stands. Some of our booster parents started coming up with this award and some recognition to kind of start teaching our students young some of the leadership characteristics we like to see. So recognized students are hand-selected by music directors as a result of one or a combination of the following criteria. Respect, effort, I can let you read all the way through the rest. But basically what happens is every single month, at the end of the month, in class, we'll announce who the student of the month is. I usually do it about 2. And then for the following week prior, if you want to go back to the previous slide once, they get to use the stand. And on the stand, again, some help with the music boosters, we were able to make them look really nice. Again, we repurposed them. And on the stand, it says Rocket Towards Excellence. They also get a certificate that says that they were a band student of the month. You can go forward now. So last year, on the 6th grade band, there were 64 students. And this year's 7th grade band, we have 46 students. That's a retention rate of 72%. And quite honestly, that's actually pretty good. If we can have 72% of students in band continue, and especially in a building transition, that's a really good thing for us. I can let you look at the numbers. This is actually in regards to younger bands here in the district a more well-balanced ensemble. We have a good-sized woodwind group with flutes and clarinets and saxophones. And actually, our brass section is quite large this year. And I think the next slide here in a moment, you'll see that the 8th grade band, we don't have quite as many brass students. The nice thing, though, is about our 8th grade band, with the exception of 5 students who actually moved away out of our district, we retained every single student from last year, from 7th grade into 8th grade. So although there were 45 students in 7th grade band last year, we have 40 students in 8th grade band this year, but 5 students ended up moving out of our district. Again, you can look at the numbers in terms of instrumentation. We're a little lower in the brass area, but we're still really fluent with some woodwinds. The next slide is jazz band. Last year, we had 11 students in jazz band by the end of the year. The rehearsal schedule, I decided to modify it this year to try to encourage more students to participate. It used to be that they would meet every single day before school, and I was finding that it was challenging to get kids off the bus. The bus comes at different times, especially with weather. It was really hard to get everybody in the same room to get a rehearsal. So I changed it to a bi-weekly rotation where we do Tuesdays and Thursdays. We meet during intervention, and we actually extend after the school day. And with this, we've actually increased our student involvement by 72% with our jazz band as well. And again, you can see the instrumentation there. It's a nice sized group, and they were able, their first performance this year was during the winter concert with the 7th and 8th grade band. This upcoming March and April, we're also bringing in some guest clinicians and conductors. Mr. Kerfman is a name that we're really, that's something we're recognizable with. He has a good standing history with the district and is also really respected in the music education community. The next individual I have a little impartiality towards, she's my mother. But my mother, as stated before, was a 35-year band director, middle school band director at Catholic Fairlawn State School, and she had some really good success there. And then the next 2 individuals, Mr. Kibler and Mr. Jay Wardeska, are both mentors I've had, and they're also, one a retired band director, actually still currently working as the director of music in the Lake City School District, and Mr. Jay Wardeska, who works at Brunswick High School as their head director. They're all going to come work with our middle school students, and they're going to get some great opportunities with that as well. To show you that our performance schedule is a little bit more in-depth this year, we started off in October with a welcome band concert. The 7th and 8th grade band both played 3 selections, and I actually took it as an opportunity to show our parents what we do in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. In front of the 7th and 8th grade band parents, we actually did a warm-up to show what type of things we're actually teaching in the band room. In November, in collaboration with our specials team at the middle school, it was the first time that we had a Veterans Day assembly, and it came off really well. Our 8th graders were in the red shirts. They looked really great. They sounded really great, and it was a really great school event. And then we had a holiday winter concert at the high school. Given the snow days, we actually had to pair up with the high school bands. It was kind of a nice thing. It kind of worked out that way, but we were able to have 3 performances with our middle school bands prior to the winter break. And now, this year, we are having students going back to solo ensemble contest and the adjudicated event. We have a total of 14 participants. This is only for 8th graders this year, and 14 out of 40 students. That's actually a pretty good amount of our students actually attending that event. And then we have our spring band concert this May, and this is the first time that I think in recent history with our middle school program that we're actually going to be taking the 8th grade band to only a large group event, which is basically the same opportunity that our high school just had, but it's just for the junior high groups. So in review, we had pretty good retention, bringing 6th grade students up into the 7th grade and middle school. And again, with the exception of 5 move-away students or students leaving the district, we had 100% retention in the building. And we had a 72% increase with our jazz band involvement. And now we also are getting more opportunities and performances are being offered. Again, going back to solo ensemble, going to large group, only a large group this year, and also the Veterans Day Center. I think now we're gonna head over to the high school.
All right, so we're back to high school now. Total enrollment in our high school, we have 87 students in the high school band. That's 19 in 9th grade, 26 in 10th, 23 in 11th, and 19 again senior year. Those are pretty good numbers. We're staying pretty close in the mid-20s, low 20s there. which is nice to see. Of course, we want to keep continuing to grow this band. We have goals of having it around 120. It's kind of where I would like to see this band ending up here in the near future. In ensembles, we have our concert band and marching band, which all students are automatically a part of, so they each have the 87 students, and 2 optional bands that students can join. We have the pep band that plays at all the home basketball games, and that has 28 students in it, and jazz ensemble. We have 17 students in our jazz ensemble. The next slide, here's our performance schedule. Now, of course, in September through October, we're playing at every single halftime game, home and away football games. So we get a lot of performances there in the beginning of the year, as well as playing, this last year we played at the Solon Band Show and the Aurora Band Show, and we'll continue to play at least 2 band shows every year. In November, we play our marching band final concert, and then in December, a month later, we had our first concert band concert of the year, which was our holiday concert, which again, we got to join together last minute with the middle school and have a joint concert, which was a very nice night. Now in January, we had our solo and ensemble event where we took 12 total students. One of those was an ensemble plus 8 soloists. And we played for the solo and ensemble portion of Ohio Music Education Association. And then just last week, we went to the OMEA large group event. And in April, we will have our spring concert coming up, and May finishing off the year with the Memorial Day Parade. Now what I have up here now is how music is graded to give us an idea of where our bands are now and where we want to see them in the future. This isn't by any means the only way that music is graded before it's passed out, before it's published, I should say, but it's a great resource to understand what those numbers mean. So most music is going to be rated 1 through 5, 1 being the easiest, 5 to the most advanced level. Each grade has the same set of criteria. You're just expanding on that criteria as you get more advanced, like a spiral curriculum. We work the same way in 5th grade. We start teaching the same concepts from day 1, and we're just trying to further advance them all the way through 12th grade. Currently, our high school band is playing somewhere between a 2 and a 3. We're at about a 2.5, which was what our select piece was that we played at our contest last week. It's a 2.5, and that tends to be rated for beginning to a middle-sized high school band, and that's between all 87 students, which have varying levels. We have 4 grades of students, that's 4 different years worth of playing, and 87 students, so we have different playing levels amongst them and kind of find what works for the majority. And right now that's at about 2.5. Now at other schools we see with larger bands, they will split into 2 different playing level bands so that you can more gear the music towards the appropriate level for those students. If you have 2 different levels of groups, and by no means are those divided by grade level as much as abilities level and what they need to be working on, you can make the music more catered to them. So you could have a band that's playing 4, and then a band that's playing 3, or a band playing 4 and a band playing 2 music, so that the music is more differentiated for those students. Helps them advance further, as well as can motivate a student to improve on their playing to make it into playing more and more advanced music. Proficiency is the best way to get somebody to enjoy doing something. The best way you can retain and continue your education in music or anything is to get better at it. And one of the best ways to get better at it is to play more and more challenging music. Next slide, please. Now, the Ohio Music Education Association large group adjudicator event we went to, I want to go into a little bit of detail to talk about. The Ohio Music Education Association is a smaller branch of our National Association for Music Education, NAFME as we like to call it. Each state has their own. Ohio is one of the larger of the music education associations in the country. We meet once a year in a statewide conference, which we just attended ourselves a few weeks ago, which was an excellent professional development opportunity. And they also offer solo and ensemble events and our large group event that we went to. At the large group event, you pick 3 select pieces as a director. One of them is going to be off of a required list that the Ohio Music Education creates each year. On that required list, you choose from different playing level categories. From AA, A, B, C, and D. You choose your music from there, and then you get to choose the other 2 pieces on your own. But one of them is that required piece. You play that for a panel of 3 adjudicators in a performance, which is the performance that we had last Saturday. Those adjudicators write down comments. They're also recording themselves and just speaking their mind as they listen to you. So you get those recordings back at the end of the performance and can take all of that criticism feedback to further your band when you get back into rehearsal the next Monday. And you also sight read one piece in a private room afterwards. If you go to the next slide, please. So our class levels. Like I said, you're required to pick one of those class levels. You then, after the judges give those comments, we'll rate you 1 through 5. 1 is the highest rating, 5 is the lowest rating. And you also have the option to go for a festival performance. Festival performance meaning you get all of the same comments, all of the same feedback without being assigned an actual score 1 through 5. This year we decided to take the band to go as festival performance because we didn't want the students to be focused on a score of it for our first time. This was very much a learning experience for everybody, what it's like to be playing in they call it contests sometimes, what it's like to be playing in that type of setting. So we didn't want people to be focused on a number of it as much as focused on the work that we were doing leading up to it and the comments and feedback that we would get after it for our improvement. The music we picked was in the grade classification of C, though. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this one, Vinny's going to talk about why it's so important for us to be going to these OMEA events.
We keep throwing out this association, this organization called OMEA, Ohio Music Education Association. When we go to solo ensemble or large group events, you can think of it as an assessment. We're going, and I think we probably should have, and we would like to give you an opportunity to look at the sheets that actually these adjudicators use to assess our ensembles and our students. But it's a comprehensive evaluation of our teaching, a comprehensive evaluation of our students' playing abilities. And then from there, the sheets, our ensembles and our students and ourselves as directors and educators, we're being assessed against a standard of excellence. Basically, these ratings 5 to 1, 1 being superior, this is a level of, to reach a 1 rating, these things need to be there. And from there, the suggestions and comments that we get from this performance, it helps us with our further instruction. We take them very literally, and it helps us plan for future instruction to help us get better with our students and also as educators. But I think most importantly that we need to stress, it's performances like these that we both had experiences with when we were in school, and even when we're in collegiate ensembles, that help teach our students that to play music at an extremely high level, it takes passion, it takes diligence, and it takes persistence. It's not just going to happen. It's not just going to happen. It's going to take a lot of hard work. So again, bringing back the saying that's from, I highly encourage to check out the OMEA website. It has a lot of additional information on there. But again, they really we would like to stress the point that competence begets competence. For our students to understand the level that it takes to put on a really phenomenal performance, they have to understand it takes work.
So we have a few things, just ideas for the future where we like to see the band going. Of course, continuing to go to these events, continuing to improve. We want to increase our enrollment. More students, the better. Increase retention through the grades. I personally have a goal of retaining at least 90% of students throughout each grade. We can do that from day one. It won't be all too hard for us to build up a high school band of over 100, 120 students. We want to have more students performing in all ensembles, whether that's jazz band, pep band, concert band, marching band, the choirs, anything. We just want to encourage participation in musical ensembles for all students and build up the entire musical community of Streetsboro City Schools. We also would like more team teaching and advised pull-out lesson rotation. I alluded to that a little bit earlier. It can be great to have some private instruction for students because when you're in a room of 20 to 100 kids, it might be kind of hard to hear that whoever third trumpet from the left is playing a wrong note and teaching them what they're doing wrong specifically in that large group setting. Currently, this year, we do get to team teach the high school together, and there's been many times where one of us ran the full group, and another grabbed a section of instruments, went to another area, and worked with just that section or just a few students at a time to help that out. And when they come back, it sounds like they were rehearsing for a couple. Also, private lesson initiative and program. using facilities to allow applied instructors to teach our students, the idea of bringing in people from the outside. We did last year have a Kent student come by, a percussionist from Kent, helped out our our percussion section during marching band, and they really enjoyed that. I think it helped get a little bit more time with just them working with somebody versus being in an entire group band. Really bring them that extra mile forward. Developing a pyramid structure. I'm gonna let Vinny talk more about that. I like his explanation more than mine on it.
I'll try to keep this concise. Basically, this concept of a pyramid structure is that any band student, regardless of a grade, should have something they're looking forward to for next year. So a fifth grade band student, that first year, they're just looking forward to playing their instrument for the first time. They're looking forward to a first concert. And I'll use the middle school as an example. This year, seventh graders, this is their first time being in middle school. It's their first time being offered an opportunity to play in jazz band. Next year, hopefully they're looking forward to opportunities like going to only a large group, like participating in solo ensemble. So having a structure like that for every one of our band students, so they're always looking forward to something the following year.
Also looking into more middle school band opportunities. One big thing we would love to see happen is to start a middle school marching band. They could play at maybe a couple of football games, pre-games, Star Spangled Banner, as well as in the Memorial Day parade or different parades around the city. We would love to be bringing the middle school and getting them, especially 8th graders, into a marching type feel, because I think that is a great way to encourage them to continue on. And it can be kind of daunting for a 7th, 8th grader to tell them, oh, you're going to be in the marching band someday, and they don't quite know what that means, and they just maybe get nervous about having to move pretty fast while trying to play the instrument at the same time, memorizing music on top of all that. And that might get a little intimidating. So kind of showing them that this is a lot of fun to do, is much more attainable than maybe some of them might think at first. It can be a great opportunity. Also looking at performance trips, like going to universities and getting to play, or getting to go to Cedar Point and play like the high school band has done in the past. Also been updating our middle school and high school inventory. This year we were approved of a $20,000 purchase, and we'll continue to be asking for more. We have some areas that we need to be building up, adding instruments into both the middle school and the high school. Now those are going to be instruments that you can't expect a student to buy themselves, especially percussion instruments that can't be taken home. Some of the more expensive instruments out there, like tubas, where even a cheaper one is a few $1,000s to find. So we like to supply and have those available for students to be able to play. More students attending district and state honors band is also a very large goal. I hope that our presentation has kind of showed how much we care about these events and how beneficial they really are for students, and we're going to keep pushing to get more and more students to go. We'll be bringing the middle school and the high school every year to the large group and trying to get more and more students to be involved in the solo and ensemble aspects too. I had the pleasure today, I went over to middle school a little early to work with Mr. Seula and got to hear a flute trio getting ready for their solo and ensemble performance that's coming up in a month, and it was just so great to hear a few students just that wanted to get together and they wanted to play music, they wanted to play in front of a judge, and they wanted to improve themselves, and they sounded great too. It was excellent to get to see that. So getting more students to be involved in that, as well as some different band offerings in the high school. I talked a little bit about the idea of going to multiple concert bands and the benefits there. All year concert band is another possibility we've seen schools do. That's not to say you can do marching or concert, as much as have the option for somebody to be in concert band all year long. And having daily use of that high school auditorium, it's just such a great facility. We get to use it all the time. Getting to have that as our classroom setting for 7th period so that we can have 2 bands, or we can use it out however we need for rehearsals is an excellent, excellent addition. I know we were using it a lot before we went to our competition because you only ever perform on a stage, and when you're performing inside of a room, it can be a completely different sound than when you get onto that nice acoustic stage. So we try to get as much time as possible on those facilities, and we'll continue to do that, of course. Thank you very much for letting us here tonight. It was great to actually get to talk at a board meeting for my first time. I hope that we can come back and get more and more into detail of the things that we hope, and ask for more and more things, of course, too. I can go on all day of things that I want, but we'll be back, assuming we are allowed back. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. motor here. I think that you can see why we had the two of them come in. They're doing a lot of great things with our kids. Okay, so moving on, Mr. Johansson, if you could throw up the pictures of the weight room. So everyone knows that we built a new field house out at the stadium, and we were in desperate need of new and updated weight equipment. This board did invest about $10,000 3 years ago in weights. But what we saw happening was that all of our equipment to support the weights was in very bad shape. So in combination, or in partnership from the athletic department, the Rising Rockets, and the Gridiron Club, we were able to purchase almost $10,000 worth of new equipment. So if we just take a quick peek at those. So if you ever go out to the field house, you're going to see, if you say, boy, that looks like new equipment, well, it is all new equipment. The weights that you see on the floor were what we purchased before. All the stands and the equipment to use the weights are new. And so we were able to take the equipment they were using before, some of that was recovered and repurposed, and now we're moving that down to what will become the new middle school. So the new middle school will actually use what we used to use at the old weight room. The middle school will now also have a weight room. So we're gonna have weights in both weight rooms in both places. So just a quick update there. And then any questions about that? So that was thank you to the Rising Rockets and the Gridiron Club for their support. And then very quickly, I wanted to just say that in conjunction with Mr. Grimm, Streetsboro Fire Department, I worked with him, and he and I went around to all 4 of our buildings, and we did a required tabletop exercise. And basically what that is that we have all members of our safety forces, our city services department, Portage County Emergency Management Services, also then our frontline secretaries and our principals and the custodian and maintenance, all at the table, and Kevin presents a scenario. And that scenario, and I won't tell exactly what it was, but it's basically some type of school crisis. And so from the second it starts until it ends, Kevin is very aggressively questioning, okay, secretaries, what do you do? All right, now that this has happened, principal, what do you do? Okay, police, you've arrived on the scene. You tell us what you're going to do. And he goes through each one of those participants and forces them to talk out loud about how they're going to manage that situation. At the end of that entire, it's about an hour long, and at the end of that entire process, then we all sit down together. What worked, what didn't. And for me as a superintendent, this was a powerful experience because I feel very confident that our principals and our staff are practicing these safety drills. We talk about it all the time, but until you put something into effect, you implement it, you really don't know how people are going to react. And so this was all around the table, let's call it tabletop. So it wasn't as intense, but Kevin made it pretty intense. And I was surprised at some of the reactions or the responses from some of the key stakeholders, not only our school personnel, but even some of the safety personnel at the table. So for me, it was a really great opportunity to create a conversation for more training at our next administrative meeting. So I just wanted to tell you that happened. Brian was able to experience that today. He was invited to see that. And we think that we're going to put this board through a tabletop exercise. We're going to create a scenario, and we're going to put you on the hot seat, and we're going to take you through a tabletop exercise either next month or the following month to see how you would react in a situation in a schoolroom. So be prepared because it's tough.
And if I can just add to that, first, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and do that. By Ohio law, you have to do the tabletop exercise plus what's next is a functional and then a full-scale exercise. But you can do that on your own and come up with a scenario, run through it, and be done. A lot of businesses do that, especially the big corporations. But I think it's unique for Streetsboro, and I'll pat everybody on the back for this one, that we try to take it to the next level and involve a lot of different people in this, so that when we respond, we're not sitting there going, what are those cops doing? What are the firemen doing? And what, who's blocking the roads? And why are these parents getting here? And who's that person for the school district? Things don't work that way. And in order to make it work effectively, we all have to work together at the beginning, train together, and really get to see what's going on. And like you said, this isn't a pass-fail type of thing. It's designed to see what's working, answer those questions, and if we see something needs tweaked, let's get it tweaked and set a timeline of when that's going to happen. So sincerely appreciate the opportunity to come in. I know it was beneficial for the police department and the service department when they were able to be there as well. We gave all three of our shift captains the opportunity to come in because they're going to be in that type of position, so they needed to experience it as well. So, but thanks again for the opportunity.
And I do need to give kudos to Kevin because he designed these and he implemented these on his own. And I told him that I was going to do this, and I actually already did. I threw his name out when he did all the area Portage County superintendents because it was a very powerful exercise. I think the principals in the room that participated and Mrs. Curtis would agree that it was eye-opening for all of us, and it gave us all basically a punch list of things that we need to work on. So thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add to, Kevin did a great job with it, made it fun. Everybody was engaged. They didn't feel like it was an additional task that they had to participate in. And there was a lot of good learning in that room for that hour that I was there. So I'll give kudos to you as well. Pretty cool.
One thing I wanted to say just for the sake of the school district, a lot of school districts go through various types of training for school emergencies. I don't know of any other school district at this point that is taking training with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Streetsboro's already done that. I know some of our administrators have already gone through some online training, and we have some training coming up locally that is sponsored through FEMA. And we are hoping that some people will be able to take part of that as well. That just makes this school more resilient and more prepared for any type of a situation that may come up. And I hope the parents understand that we're doing more as a school district to protect your students by getting those incident management type things on the back end taken care of and out of the way.
Thanks, Kevin. Then one final item I just wanted to tell the board. You approved the purchase of Navigate Prepare 2 years ago, and that's the company that came in and photographed all of our buildings on the inside and gave a 360-degree camera view for safety forces that they will on the scene. They can bring up a map and click and see a picture of inside of every single closet, room, in every building. It's of course empty, but we did it after the teachers decorated so they could see a real picture of what those rooms look like. In the event that there was a situation in room 210, safety forces can get a look at everything that's in 210 prior to going in and addressing the situation. They can identify any area that could be a hazard or a hiding place. It also houses our safety plans, and they've rolled out a really cool mobile app. And so we actually sent that out to staff yesterday. And the mobile app gives us the opportunity to download it onto your phone, and it gives every person based on their location. So we're at Henry Depper. It would give all the teachers at Henry Depper a flip chart. When you activate the flip chart, it looks like that. And it has a scenario. It has a flip chart or a explanation for any type of emergency situation that could occur in the building. So if I chose evacuation, it'd bring up step-by-step on what you should do in an evacuation. Now, we teach our teachers to react and think in order to stay alive and minimize casualty. So the house concept is to empower people to make good decisions. But this is nice because if you get into a situation where you're just not sure what to do, it's at your fingertips. And then what's really cool is if I'm walking my class down the hallway and I see something that doesn't fit, I won't take it any further than that. The teacher can pull out her cell phone, activate the app, and activate an alarm that then sends an alarm to the entire building, and the building then can go into lockdown or evacuate based on an alarm so it's real-time reporting from our staff. And then if there is a crisis and maybe some of our teachers are locked down in our classrooms, maybe some of our classrooms have evacuated to our reunification point, by period and by day, it'll give a roster of who's in their classroom. They can check off who they have. If they picked up a couple kids that were in the hall, so you need to come with me, they can type their names in. That all goes into one housing unit where the administrator and I can actually see who's accounted for and who isn't. So it's a really cool feature. We did just roll that out to staff. We're excited to see how this works. It's a work in progress, but we're excited to see the possibilities with this app. Any questions? I conclude my report. Sorry it was so long.
Thank you, Mr. Dalbaugh. Moving on.
Students, this is your time to, if you want to, seriously, students, if you want to leave, you can.
Or stay.
Or stay.
Yeah, stick it out.
Thanks for staying. Moving on to treasurer's report. Go to board reports. Ms. Baba.
I just wanted to mention the PTA on their calendar on March 13th, which is next week. They are having an internet safety for parents. It starts at 7 o'clock at the high school. And those parents who attended the safety program last night heard a little bit about it. So it's highly recommended. It's at the high school again, 7 o'clock on March 13th. Also on the PTA calendar, they have their regular general board meeting, or their regular general meeting on March 14th, and that will be here at Henry Duffer in the cafeteria at 6:45. With regard to the legislative report, I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but there is a House Bill 512, which is going through the state legislature right now. And that bill seeks to combine the Ohio Department of Education with 2 other agencies. Under the bill, it would become a cabinet level department in the governor's cabinet, and there would be 2 deputies appointed, and neither of those deputies will be appointed to oversee K-12 education. So K-12 education reports were, there were hearings yesterday in opposition to the bill, and the room was overflowing. They had to move part of the crowd to overflow rooms. Many of the education organizations are against this proposal. So I encourage you to contact your state legislators and also just keep an eye on this and watch it as it continues to move through the process.
Already talked about Dominic Carone, but give him some words of encouragement on Facebook or send him a text, whatever you can do, because he was runner-up last year, and I'm sure that he is going to work as hard as he can to get a state title to this school. So please call him, whatever you can do, social media, to give him some words of encouragement. The Winter Sports Awards night is Thursday, March 15th. Thanks again to the Rising Rockets and Gridiron Club for getting the new weight equipment. It's much needed. So everybody can use that in all the sports. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Gibson?
I have nothing to report right now.
Mr. Grimm? Well, of course I do. A few things. The agendas for next week's city council meetings have been sent to you by email. And I just want to quick thank you to the mayor and city council members that were able to attend last night's school safety presentation. It was nice to have them there. At Denver Intermediate, Mrs. Hepburn will present a music ensemble performance March 22nd at 7 o'clock at the Denver Gymnasium. Another performance will be held the following day, March 23rd, during the day for students. At the middle school, Mr. Skula, luckily he went through the Rocket Standard Award and what that meant. But over the last few months, some of the students that were recognized in the 7th grade, Jordan Little, Tristan Sadowski, Cody Dupree, Max McClary, Xavier Alamine, and Sam Labby. In 8th grade, Renee Rose, Anna Spence, David Danner, Delaney Maglianico, I hope I pronounced everybody's name correctly, Caitlin Wagner, and Bradley Stevens. So congratulations to them. And just another reminder, I mentioned it last month on March 11th, just a few days, tune into ABC television to see Streetsboro graduate Maddie Finn on American Idol. Maddie has been pretty successful in her music career so far, which included involvement in productions at Streetsboro High School and at Family Days with her band during her high school career. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. And I have nothing to report, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Recommend the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items B through S.
I'll move. I'll second.
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Grimm, any comments?
Just want to recognize our retiree platform, and then also resignation of Jill Seelick, our district librarian. She made the decision to move to a school close to home so that she could better attend to her little baby and family matters. So we wish her the best of luck.
Please call the roll. Mr. Kelly? Yes. Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm? Yes. Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. Superintendent's recommendations.
Thank you. I have, if all of you are right now, would go ahead and hit refresh on your screen. So at the top, you'll see a little house and a little Swish mark, hit that, and then you'll log back in, take you to board docs. Swish mark, yeah. Yeah, hit regular, go back to the board meeting, and I went ahead and go ahead and open the agenda up, and I went ahead and added a recommendation. You see that ED to authorize me to, we'll talk about that when we get down to it, but I just want to see that, show you that we added that. All right, so my first one, it is recommended the Board of Education hire Brandy Hollis as Transportation Supervisor, 228 days at the salary of $51,000 plus other administrative benefits prorated from March 5th, 2018 through July 31st, 2018.
I'll move.
I'll second.
First and second.
Okay, so Brandy, if you wouldn't mind standing up, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Brandy Hollis. Brandy comes to us with an extensive amount of experience in transportation. We were really excited when we saw her resume and when she applied. We actually stole her away from a district nearby. I'll leave it at that. But Brandy has not only been a driver, she has actually worked in the maintenance garage as far as process and inventory. She's been a dispatcher and she's supervised. So she really brought a very complete package, if you will, to the transportation department. So what has been absolutely amazing to me, she's now been on the clock for 4 days, but even prior to the 4 days that she's been in the seat, I think I've probably received about 12, 13, 14 emails and several phone calls from her with ideas. She is beyond energetic. I get exhausted talking to her because she's so energetic. She has so many great ideas. We all know that whenever we have a transition in leadership, a new leader always brings new ideas and brings a different lens to a department or to a building. And I'm really excited for the ideas that Brandy has. I'm going to ask her to present next month about a really cool idea. I'm not going to say any more about it, but I think it's going to really make what we're doing over in the bus garage, from our runs to delivering students to accounting for supplies, much more efficient. And it's going to be a nice opportunity for our parents to be involved in the transportation of their kids. And Brandy is an expert in Versatran, and that's the new software we purchased about a year ago, but we had a transition with our tech directors, and that program was not launched. She already knows how to use it, and it's going to help us with our routing. So welcome, Brandy.
Thank you.
Please call the roll. Beal? Yes. Gibson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
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 Motion carried. Welcome aboard, Brandy. Oh, sorry.
Item B, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the administrative contract for Brandy Hollis for 2 years effective August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2020.
I'll move.
I'll second.
As is my habit, we always hire administrators initially on a 2-year contract. So we're getting her through July 30th this year, then we're going to give her a 2-year contract.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson? Yes. Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes, motion carried.
Item C, it is recommended the Board of Education approve Joseph Petrarca, Director of Student Services, for a 3-year contract renewal.
I'll move.
I'll second.
First and second, Mr. Kelly, Ms. Babbitt. Any comments?
Well, I think that said it all. Joe has done a tremendous job since he's been here. He took one of the areas that we've struggled with, our student services, our special education students that need those special services. We've struggled traditionally for years, not only closing that gap, but also with services to those kids. We haven't had cohesive leadership in a long time, and Joe has brought that to the table. You guys all know what his resume looks like, so I would like to keep Joe here for at least the next 3 years.
I would agree. Please call the roll. Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes. Motion carried.
Item D, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the addendum to Darlene Wheeler's contract as shown in the attachment.
I'll move.
I'll second. First and second.
Just very quickly, Darlene is she's one of those warriors that works well beyond her contract. She just today finished a review that she's been working on with the state for months, and it has consumed her life. But something I noticed as I was digging into administrative contracts, I know that Darlene was on a 206-day contract but Darlene works at about 240 days a year. So what I did was I modified her contract to a 228 contract. Basically, that's an August 1 to July 30th type contract with some swing days in there because she needs to be in here in July for ordering, and the freezer goes down, she has to be in charge of that. But this contract addendum more accurately reflects the work that she's doing.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And my final one, item E, is recommended the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to enter into contract with Garland for the replacement layover for a 30-year roof at the current middle school not to exceed $350,000.
I'll move.
I'll second.
The first and second, Mr. Kelly, Ms. Baba. And any comments at all? Please call the roll.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes, motion carried.
That concludes my recommendations.
On to treasurer's recommendations.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve re-enrollment in the Comp Management Group Rating Program for Workers' Compensation Policy Year 2019. Annual fee is $3,025.
I'll move.
I'll second. Mr. Grimm, Mr. Violi, any comments? This is a normal reoccurring contract, right?
That is correct.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Abstain.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Motion carried. Is that it for, okay. Any new business? Any old business? Moving on to the board president's recommendations. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the resolution supporting school safety and reducing violence in schools.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Would we like to read the resolution? Huh?
Yes.
Would you like to read it?
If you want me to. Whereas school violence has become an epidemic in the United States of America, and whereas the children and school employees of our nation deserve to attend school without fear of death or injury, and their families deserve to send them to school without fear of the same. Whereas there is a mutual responsibility of all citizens to address this problem, and the responsibility for preventing violent incidents cannot be relegated to school districts alone. And whereas multiple studies have shown that the majority of Americans support action to eliminate violence in our schools, and whereas school board members, administrators, employees, and community members should work together with lawmakers, legal counsel, law enforcement, and security experts to determine how best to ensure student safety in their district. Therefore, be it resolved that the Streetsboro City School Board of Education implores the President of the United States, the Governor of the State of Ohio, the United States Congress, and the Ohio General Assembly to prioritize the protection of students and school employees by enacting legislation with funding for the following. 1, enhance mental health services and substance abuse treatment so that all individuals, including children, have sufficient access to these services. 2, training for school employees and enhanced coordination with law enforcement agencies and first responders to ensure appropriate responses to incidents of violence in schools. 3, preserving the balance between the right to own firearms and the protection of students and school employees from any act of violence.
Thank you, Ms. Ballard. This is a resolution that OSBA has asked to be passed by all school boards, and I believe it is a well-written resolution. So,
And we plan to, if you approve it, we plan to send that to our legislators as well as the governor.
send one to the president too.
Sure.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Beal?
Yes, motion carried. Approval of policies. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the revision to policy 6.41 as shown in the attachment.
I'll move.
I'll second.
First and second, Mr. Grimm, Mr. Gibson, any comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Viola?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to item C, it is recommended the Board of Education enter into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee or official, to consider the discipline of a public employee or official, and to consider details relative to security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or a public office with no action to follow.
I'll move.
Second.
We have a first and second. Mr. Kelly, Mr. Grimm, please call the roll.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Babbitt?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson?
Yes.
Mr. Viola?
Yes, motion carried. We're in executive session at 7:37.
Make sure you log out before you close your.